Hello there, I'm Sean Greasley and welcome to volume 16 of our Visual Basic tutorials. In this tutorial I will be discussing arrays within Visual Basic. Okay, what is an array? An array is a collection of data stored inside one variable. So far we have been using variables in the context that one variable can contain one value. For example, temporary variable equals the value of 2 if it is an integer, and etc. So let's learn how to define an array. We'll call our variable array. We then use little brackets here. You can see a little tooltip text came here, there, like so. We then enter the amount of values we want to store in one variable. So if we want to store 5 values, we'll type the number 5, and then we use the type specifier. We'll say it's an integer. I'll tell you the error with this. We have used an inbuilt, what is called a inbuilt VB function. For example, we cannot use things like private, sub, end as variables because it will think we are trying to call a function, and as you can see it's errored here. So it has to be something unique, things that are not used in Visual Basic itself, like sub, and as you can see array was one as well. So if we call it temp for temporary variable, so let's capitalize that, and it should work without any errors like so. Okay. So do remember not to use inbuilt Visual Basic functions such as these, any of them which are highlighted in blue. Now we've defined our array. The way to actually store data in these arrays in one solid go is to use for loops. Because we know the value in which it goes to, we know that there are 5 values in this array, we can set a for loop which reaches from 0 to 4. I'll explain the values in which arrays can hold right now. If you define an array as temp_var which holds 5 values, these are the values 0 to 4. It's not 1 to 5, it's 0 to 4. So when you reference your variable, you use things like this, like such. It starts at 0, it does not start at 1. So you have 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. As you can see it's 5 values, it just starts at 0. And all this information here is stored inside there. So we could write, hello, my name is Sean. We now want to display this in, say, a message box, for example. So we can say temp_var 0, like so. We then want a space, so we'll have to add a little string here. It gets a little messy. 2 or 5 4 3 2 and 1. So when we execute the message box, it should say hello, my name is Sean, with the spaces in between each word. Oh, we've got a little error. Let's have a look at this. As you can see, I've defined it as an integer, but we are using strings. That would work if we didn't have option explicit at the top there. Please refer to that tutorial if you'd wish to know about that. Oh, it's changed itself again. There we go. Define it as a string, we can store strings in there. Hello, my name is Sean. As you can see, it's made use of every single array entry. If we try to use number 5, I don't think it will let us do that. We may get an error if we try and use it in the message box here. Hello, Sean, name is. That's strange, to be honest. If we try and define it as 1 as a string. Subscript out of range. See here, as you can see, we've set an array range in the values of 0. We can only use 0, we can't use 1 here. And as you can see, we are trying to use the value 2 and maybe 3 as well. It doesn't like 2, it doesn't like 3, it doesn't like 5. So do remember to actually use the range in which you're intending in using. You can say, I don't know how many values I'm going to use in my program, so I'm going to have 900,000 variables in the hope that I'll never get that far, and I can use how many I want then. I can use 100 if I want to. But the thing is, we are actually using more memory, and when you compile your program, the program has now allocated 900,000 entries in your memory. That slows your computer down quite considerably, so please only use how many you are intending in using in your program. If you think you might use a maximum of 100, then use 100. So please keep it simple and to the amount you will use inside your program. Okay, so that's the basic use on how to define and initialize and display arrays. The next thing I would like to do is to be able to generate a more simplistic view of entering data into the arrays. So what we're going to do here is the user is going to enter values, and we are going to use a for loop to put these into the array. So remember, we know our target, we know there's 5 values in this array. So we can say for x equals 0, array start at 0, not 1, to 4, and the end at 4, for this value of 5 here. We then end the for loop. Remember, we're using the variable x, so we do need to define that here. Okay, so we've now defined x and we're using a for loop for x. Okay, we are now going to accept input from the user in this text box, and that is called txt_user. So what we're going to do now is temp var x equals txt_user dot text. Okay. Right, what is happening now is that when we've defined x, we're running the for loop. Okay. What x is doing, it will equal 0 on the first iteration, then it will equal 1, 2, 3, and on the final iteration it will equal 4. As you can see, first iteration x will equal 0, so that will be 0 here. We are defining the array temp var 0 as the user text. Second iteration is initializing the first temp var as the user.text, and etc. So if you put x there, it's like a wildcard for all numbers 0 to 4. As you can see, it's going to equal the user text. And let's try and display these as a message box once we have done this. Remember, we can copy the for loop downwards because we have our boundaries. Once you've done it once, you can copy it and use it again. And let's display this as a message box to the user. Let's do that here. Okay, now hopefully you should enter the values and we will display them here. Okay, so if we enter hello, all 5 of the empty slots in our array will equal hello. Hello, hello, 3, 4, 5. And as you can see, we have stored the values here and we are displaying them here. And that is a short introduction on how to use arrays, initialize and declare them within Visual Basic. Thank you for listening to the tutorials on arrays, and I hope you enjoy the other tutorials on the website, and goodbye.